Yeah, welcome to our conversation about options after graduation. We're just be doing a big overview for you guys. We have the counselors here on the line. I'm Mrs. Broadbent. I've got students' last names A through E.
Again, I'm Ms. Schwab, and I have F through L.
I'm Mrs. Fiasconari, and I have last names M through Q.
And this is Mr. Age, and I have last names R through Z.
So the first thing we're going to discuss today are what are the goals for today? What are we going to be looking at? And what we're looking at are several different types of pathways. We want you to know what are your options for after graduation. This is not a video to say this is what you must do. This is the best way to choose, because everyone's path might be a little different. Someone might want to go into the trade route and become an electrician. Others might want to go to the military, where others might want to go to a four-year school compared to a two-year school. So what this is more to do is just to introduce you to all those options out there so you are prepared to look at what's going to happen after you graduate. It's important when we're going through this is to think about what do you want. Even if you're a senior all the way down to a freshman, it's always good to start thinking about what do you want in the future? What kind of job do you want? Like I tell people, your career is what you're going to be doing for the next 30 to 40 years. So look at what is something that you're interested in and what's going to be the best situation for you. I always say not everyone is going to be prepared right now to go to college. Not everyone's going to walk out of high school and say, oh, I definitely want to do college. But however, you need to have a plan. You don't want to walk out of high school saying, I have no idea what I want to do. You need to have some kind of plan. So this is what we're going to look at for today. We are going to look at, these are the most common options that we see our students go into: the four-year college, the two-year college, the trade school, the career tech schools, the military, and then the workforce. So that's what we are going to focus on today. Okay, so first thing I want to look at is what is a four-year university or college? Typically, a four-year university or college is you're looking at earning about 120 credit hours and receiving some sort of bachelor's degree. A lot of students nowadays, it might take you 5 or 6 years to get through all 120 hours. But well, typically, go ahead.
Those hours are different than like what you hear in high school. So like an English class that you take is usually going to be like 3 or 4 credit hours per semester. So credit hours are really different when you're talking about college. But yeah, it is usually like about 4 years, but it can take more than 4, like Ms. Schwab's saying.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of students might choose that they might not be able to take a full load because they might be working in the middle of it. You know, things happen. So it might not take you 4 years, but you are looking at about 120 hours. But like Ms. Broadingham says, each class might be weighted a little bit different. Some might be 2, 3, 4 hours would be for one of your classes. When you're looking at a four-year college, you're going to be still taking some general education requirements, but you're going to dive deeper into a specific major. For example, I went to school and I have a math degree. So when I went to school, I had to take specific requirements, but by the end of my 4 years, I was taking a lot of upper level math classes because that was my major that I was going into. So depending on what your major is, you will dive a lot deeper into those requirements, especially your last few years. This right here is really, when you think of a traditional college experience, this is what you're thinking of. This is four-year schools where you're going to have your housing, you're going to have your, college athletics, your different clubs in college. So this right here is more of like the traditional type college experience that you would see pictured in the movies and what you would think of. Also, because of all this, it also can be a little bit more expensive. There are a lot of benefits to this, and it can help you definitely get into a good career path, but a lot of times a four-year school is going to be more expensive than a two-year school or another option.
And the benefit of that too is that, like, even though it costs more money, on the front end. Like it's like an investment, right? Like you spend money, but you end up in more lucrative careers, like being able to make more money at your different jobs with a 4-year degree.
Totally agree. When you're looking at a 4-year college also, there's going to be a bunch of different types of 4-year colleges. You've got your public universities, your private universities, and your liberal arts university. They all offer a bachelor's degree. They're all 4-year colleges, and we're going to start looking more into what all those mean here in a second. A lot of times students who attend a 4-year university, some will decide to take that degree and go right into the workforce. Others will decide to take that degree and go back and go to graduate school, get a master's, get a PhD. It depends on what your goals are. For example, I got a math degree, and at the time I wasn't able to teach, so I got a job for a while, decided, I think I want to become a teacher, so I went back to school, to graduate school, and got my master's in education so I could become a teacher. So I kind of did 2 of those. I went to the workforce for a while, and then I decided to go back into graduate school.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that like really hits the nail on the head that like right now it's all about learning about your different options and finding a direction. But like most people, end up changing their career at least once, if not more times, or like find different ways to express like what they want to do with their lives. So, I mean, I know for me, I originally wanted to be a clinical psychologist. So, I went and got my bachelor's in psychology, and then I had an internship with a school counselor and realized like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I don't want to be a therapist all day. Like, I want to go and do school counseling so we can talk about so many cool different things. But then I took off a couple of years just to make sure I was like really sure about my decision before I went back to graduate school. So, I mean, like not everyone's path is, straight to what they really wanted to do. It just sometimes takes some time to figure it out.
And one thing I'm going to, suggest too is whether it's when you're getting into college or even now in high school, if you have an idea of what you want to do after high school or even a major, go and observe that career choice. Like, for example, when I was in high school, all I wanted to do is be an optometrist. In my mind, I was going to be an optometrist. And for anyone on here that doesn't know, that's an eye doctor. And I wanted to be an eye doctor. My mind was set on it. I went to college, still wanted to be an eye doctor. So I think it was between the summer of my freshman and sophomore year, I went and did an internship at an optometry office. After 2 days, I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like, I knew instantly that this would not make me happy. I would not be happy there. But I never would have known that if I didn't go and look at it. And on top of this, I was taking high-level math classes really for the fun of it. I know that sounds crazy, but I was taking Calc 3 and these classes because I enjoyed math so much. And then after I went and started doing some observation with some optometrists, I'm like, I just knew right away that that was not the career for me. But I would never have known it if I didn't go and observe. So I strongly suggest if you have something in mind that you want to do, just go and observe that career, whether it's for a day, for a couple of days, see what it's about. You don't want to go in with a major of art and then come out saying, I don't know why I did that. You want to make sure that you know what you're getting into is the way I look at it when that happens. Just like Ms. Brodigam said, she went and started working with a school counselor and decided at that point that's what she loved to do. But she might not have ever thought of it if she didn't go and see what that was about.
Mm-hmm. And I completely agree. Job shadow. I mean, on top of the fact that in high school, I thought I wanted to be an accountant. Clearly, I ended up nowhere close to that. I changed my major twice in college, really like sometimes you just have to jump into things and really kind of immerse yourself in that career a little bit and find out what it's like with hands-on experience before you can truly tell if it's something that's going to be a good fit for you or not.
Yeah, and I think we have a slide on this later, but it seems like it's going to be helpful to mention it now. But I think in high school sometimes there's just like all this pressure to feel like you have to have your whole life figured out by the time you graduate, and that's so overwhelming and so scary. And so I think a lot of people just kind of like freeze, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and feel like they're supposed to just have everything planned out for like what's your 10-year plan? Like I don't know. I didn't know. And I just want to give you guys some like peace that I can maybe like count on one hand the number of people who end up doing what they said they were going to do when they were in high school. Like a lot of people end up in kind of like the same general direction, but there's just so much that in high school it's impossible to know every possible career in your field that you're interested in. It's impossible to know how that's all going to pan out. And so like it's okay to not have it all figured out. Like it's okay to do that. And I think just by coming to this, and to learn about what the different options are. Okay, people in the chat are saying like that they feel the same way. And I think that, taking the time to learn about these different options and taking time to, like Mr. Agee said, do some job shadowing and, and talk to people, just like the counselors are saying, I think that that's really, really important and valuable. And just, being kind to yourself and knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out right now. We just encourage you to have a plan, a direction that you're interested in going, of what your next steps are, and taking this time to learn more about yourself and about your options. Wait, I can pass it back to you, Ms.
Oh, no problem. That's fine. You want to go to the next slide?
Next slide, sure.
Yeah. So like we were talking about, when you're looking at the FourYear Universities, there's 3 options that are probably the most popular, and one's going to be your public university. We lost your screen, Miss Brodigan. There we go. Your public universities are usually your larger state schools. They're going to be larger than your private universities. Things that some of the pros and cons, and we can get into that here also in a little bit, is your public universities are going to be more like your Ohio State, Kent States, your really larger schools. There are public universities that aren't as large as private, like Ohio State, who's obviously humongous. Then you got your private universities, which are a lot smaller than public universities. You're going to have a lot smaller class sizes. It's a lot more in the campus, getting involved in campus life. I went to a private university and it was a lot more campus life, everyone living on the campus type deal. Then you get your liberal arts university, and that's more of a well-rounded education. Whereas a private or a public university, you might, for example, want to go and say, I want to be a doctor and I'm going to go right into pre-medicine. Where at a liberal arts university, you're going to look more at, it's more well-rounded. So you might go in with a biology degree with a focus in pre-med and take the classes to get onto that track. And you're going to be taking more well-rounded classes. So even though you might be a science major, you might be taking some English classes, some foreign language classes, things like that. And I've just put an example down there. So for example, if you want to go into engineering, they might not have an engineering degree at a liberal arts school. You might have to study math or science or statistics and then go into engineering afterwards. And Ms. Brodigan, do you want to talk a little bit about the for-profit schools real quick?
Totally. And just like a note about the liberal arts, I mean, it's all about like, you have to do the research and see what the schools offer and make sure it's going to get you in a direction you want to go. And there's a lot of like pluses and minuses to each of these types of schools. And this is not like the end all information about all these different types of things. I mean, we could probably do a presentation every day the rest of the year about like college and career planning and different things to consider and different things to look at. For those of you that are juniors and seniors, we do have the college crash course, parts of it at least available for juniors, and all of it's available for seniors, where you can learn more about the college search process, and then for seniors learning about the application process. So I encourage you to check that out. Now, for-profit schools. So most colleges are going to be not-for-profit schools, which means that they're invested in making sure that you're getting a great education, and that they're making sure their graduation rates are as good as possible, and that they're providing a good service. That's what most not-for-profit schools do. For-profit schools, however, one of their objectives is to make money. So sometimes you'll run into places where a lot of their budgets are going towards marketing and going towards getting your attention. You know, this is like, I'm trying to think of some local ones that we've had before, like, I can't think of them right now. Like ITT Tech, that one's kind of older, but like there are just some schools that offer usually like a, they talk about like fast track degrees or like career tech certifications, and make it feel like this is like the best thing ever. Like, look at our great tutoring center and look at all these great options. But then when you start to actually look at it, you start to realize that they're not offering much more, if not like they're even offering less than say like Columbus State with similar programs, who also has tutoring centers, who also have you know, great job placement. And then the not-for-profits, I mean, the for-profit schools may not have as good job placement or things like that, just because their investment isn't necessarily in your success. It's in making money from you. So, you know, if you're ever concerned and are wondering if a school is for profit, if something feels fishy, you know, let us know. We're happy to look at it with you. One of the warning signs is that, you know, the school is significantly more expensive than a Columbus State, but offering similar programs, like 2-year programs. So I've seen some for-profit colleges that want to charge you like $40,000 to $60,000 for something that you could have, you know, spent $10,000 for at Columbus State. And so when we're talking about like the college debt, like when you hear stuff about that in the news, if you break it down, I think it's something like for-profit college debt, something like, it's a huge number, like 30 to 40% of the college debt, compared to the number of people that are actually going to those schools. It's very disproportionate. So, you know, if you're ever not sure, just double check, or you can even Google, like, is this a for-profit school or not? You know, just, you know, we're always going to support your decisions in the end, but, you know, we would encourage you to really look at what your options are and get the most out of your money. College is an investment, so we just want to encourage you to make a really like frugal investment. And for-profit schools don't usually offer you truly much more than what a not-for-profit school would, and for usually a fraction of the price. So that's all.
So when you're looking at how do I decide between a private, a public, a liberal arts school, what am I really looking at? When you're looking at something like that, a couple of things I would look at. One is like a cost, and that might be a little trickier than what you think. Primarily, you know, public schools, liberal arts schools, no, public schools will be a little bit cheaper than the liberal arts and the private schools.
But that being said, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to say, but there's still a lot of private schools and liberal arts schools can give money. They just give it in a little bit of a different way. Go ahead. Now, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so, like, we talk about, like, the sticker price, right? So, like, the sticker price for a private school, like the total cost without any aid is going to be way more than a public school. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to even look at private schools. But then a lot of private schools have more, like, funding to give big scholarships based on grades, based on whatever. And sometimes, like, after you've gone through the application process, after you've filled out the FAFSA, which is, you know, what tells colleges how much you're able to pay, then, you know, you'll get what's called a financial aid offer, or a financial aid package, and then you can compare them. And we find that, you know, a lot of students that graduate from here, the cost to go to a private school ends up being cheaper for them, just because of the amount of aid that's offered. Whereas at a bigger college, some of the scholarships are a lot more competitive. So you have a lower chance of getting some of those scholarships. So don't be turned off by a high sticker price until after, you know, you do the application process, and then they give you the actual offer, so you can see, like, really compare apples to apples, because it is pretty tricky. Like, we had a student, or we've had students in the past who, you know, get into OSU, but then they also get into somewhere like, you know, an Ivy League school, which is way more expensive, but in the end, OSU would have been more expensive for them. So it's just really tricky to predict exactly how much it's going to cost until you get your final offer. So don't rule something out just based on cost.
Also, another thing to look at is class sizes, especially your first year or so when you're taking a lot of those general requirements. Your public schools are going to have a larger class size. You might have some teacher assistants in there, helping you with some of your classes, whereas your private and public liberal arts school are going to have smaller class sizes. Like, for example, you take general biology at Ohio State, you might have 150 students in your class, whereas at a private school or a liberal arts school, it might be 30 or 40 students. So that's one thing to look into. Now, once you get more into your major and classes in your major, those class sizes will fall for both private, public, and liberal arts. They will fall. But at the beginning, class sizes in public schools will usually be larger than the others. Also, culture. A lot of, public schools are going to be a lot larger than your privates and liberal arts. You need to look at what kind of size of a school do you want to go to. I know when I went into college, I wanted a smaller college. I wanted something that, I think there was maybe 1,500 students on the whole campus. It was very small, but that's what I wanted. My sister wanted it as big as she could get. She went to Ohio State. She wanted that large type of school. So it depends on what you're looking for. So those are things that you need to look at is what are you looking for, the environment around it, things like that. One other thing I want to caution you about too is look at what's around it. I know some people, for example, I had a student, all he wanted to do was go to Bowling Green. He got accepted in the Bowling Green, went to Bowling Green, was there for maybe a month and was like, there's nothing around this town except for a college. Never looked at the environment around. Look at things like that. It's not always just a school. Look what is around there also. Degrees. If you know what you want to study, that's something important to look into. Not all schools might not offer that course of study. So that is definitely something you want to look into. If you're someone that says, for example, I want to be an engineer, you might not want to do a liberal arts school where you have to major in math or science and take the classes for an engineering program. You might want to go right into an engineering program. So those are definitely things that you have to take into mind. And like opportunities. What does the school have to offer? Public schools are going to have a lot more opportunities to get involved because it's a larger school. They're going to have more clubs. They're going to have more athletics. They're going to have, different groups you can get involved with where some of the private and liberal arts schools might not have as many. They're going to still have them, but it might not be to the extent of a public university. And what you need to do is you need to figure out what is best for you. You need to know what type of college is going to be best for you. We did post on our Google Classroom. It's called the College Crash Course Lesson 1, and that will give you an idea of what type of college are you looking for, what suits the needs that I want. You want to go to the next slide? Then if you're not looking at a 4-year university, you're looking at a 2-year university. A 2-year university, one of the differences, instead of being there for 4 years, you're there for 2 years, but instead of earning a bachelor's degree, now you're looking at an associate's degree or some kind of certified program. Degrees such as this I have down there would be things such as like the healthcare and public education, such as preschool teachers, medical assistants. Columbus State is a 2-year program. Many students will go to a 2-year program, and after completing classes there, will switch and transfer to a 4-year university. The one nice thing about a 2-year institution is the cost is much less than a 4-year institution. Like I tell students all the time, there's nothing wrong with attending a 2-year university, take classes, and then transferring to a 4-year university. Your diploma is never going to say, for example, Columbus State / Ohio State. If you do that, you graduate from Ohio State, your diploma is going to say the Ohio State University. It's not going to say, I went to Columbus State for 2 years and I transferred to Ohio State. This is also a great option if you're coming out of high school and you're like, I don't really know exactly what I want to go into. I'm not 100% sure. Is college for me? Is it not for me? This will give you the chance also to take some classes without having that humongous tuition put on you also. So this right here is a good, option for many students, if that's what you're looking into. A lot of them, a lot of students will go to like Columbus State or some two-year university and become a medical assistant and go right into the workforce after that. But these are things to look at. There's nothing wrong with a two-year university compared to a four-year university. Like we said earlier, all of these options are good options. It's just what option fits you the best. There's not one better than the other. There may be one better for you than another one. You want to switch slides? Unless you have anything to say. So what we put, here's what we
clicking the wrong things.
Oh, you're fine. So here's what we put up. We've listed what is the difference between a four-year, for the most part, university and a 2 years. I've already talked about a lot of this. 4 years, you're going to earn a bachelor's degree, where 2 years, you're going to have an associate's degree or a certification. Usually in a four-year university, your class sizes are larger than in a two-year university. Also, like a lot of students live on campus at a four-year university. Two-year university, a lot of students still live at home, or they get an apartment and drive back and forth. It's also a lot more expensive at a four-year school than a two-year school. If you're going to a four-year school, you have more choices in majors. You have more choices in advanced classes. Whereas a two-year school, you're going to have more of your prerequisites or whatever classes you're taking for that certification or your associate's degree. Like we said before, many people will go in, get an associate's degree or certification, and then move on. One thing we have under a four-year university is you have better student life. For example, you have more sporting events, you have more clubs, you have people on campus walking around, you have more of a campus life than you will at a two-year university, and most of that is because people are living on campus at your four-year school, whereas your two-year school, you have people commuting off and on. Four-year schools will offer a lot more scholarships. A lot of times, and a lot of that's because it's also more expensive, where a two-year school will have more specific career programs, such as I want to be a preschool teacher, I want to be, medical assisting, I want to go into culinary arts, things like that. And then lastly, a lot of times with the two-year school, your credits do transfer pretty easily. If you're looking at going from like a Columbus State to any state school, your credits are going to transfer easily over. Where there might be some issues if you're looking at going to a school outside of Ohio, if you do a two-year school in Ohio and then you leave outside of Ohio. So what we're going to talk about next is what is going to be the best option for you as far as doing that. Couple things you can do. One, first of all, you're on this and learning your options. That's your first step towards trying to figure out what's best for you. You can talk to your school counselor. We're happy to email with you. We can set up Zoom meetings. You ask us to call you. We can call you. You just need to let us know. Talk to I Know I Can rep, Miss Uniac. Miss Uniac is a great resource. I do know, especially with seniors, she's setting up appointments to help with the college application, with FAFSA, applying for financial aid, things like that. So she's a wonderful resource.
And she can talk about all this other career stuff too. I mean, like, she's a huge host of like information and resources. I know that she's doing her first few in-person meetings today. But yeah, she's definitely a huge expert on all this stuff too.
We've posted a lot of stuff on our Google Classrooms just to help you prepare for this. So look at the Google Classrooms. We know the stuff's not on there, is not mandatory to turn in, where you're not getting graded on it, but those are good resources for you to try to help you decide what's best for you. Also, the higher your GPA, the more opportunities you have across the board. The higher your GPA, the more your class schedules, all this comes into play. Colleges and universities want to see someone who's taking a good course load, not, hey, I'm taking as easy classes as I can, just to get a high GPA. They're looking to see, are you taking the advanced classes? Are you taking the AP classes? Are you challenging yourself? Those are things you need to look at. And also talk to your family. Your family is going to have a lot of influence into this too, because part of it is, hey, how much is this going to cost? Can they get me to a college across the country if I want to go somewhere, for example, in California? So you need to have these conversations with your family. So lastly, we just to go over things to consider: cost, how big of an institution do you want, what kind of degree do you want, what kind of campus you want, and then like the long-term benefits and risks. You know, do you want to go to a four-year school where you might be coming out with some more student loans as a two-year school, or, you know, what's going to be best for you? Okay. Trade schools, technical schools, these are another great option. Like I tell students, you might not always need to go to college, but you need to get trained in something. These schools will offer hands-on training. They will prepare you to go right into the workforce. A lot of these schools will also train you while you're there. You're going to spend time actually on the job working. So these are awesome programs. They're a lot like some of the programs we have at our career centers. If you want to go to the next slide real quick. Ms. Brodigan. Oh, you're fine. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
it's my first time sharing with the dual monitor.
I understand.
So I keep clicking the wrong thing.
So what I've done was I've just listed some type of career and trade technical schools that are out there: dental hygienist, construction, cardiovascular technologist, web developer, IT technician, mechanic, electrician, plumber, HVAC. These are all wonderful careers. These are careers that you can go on and you can come out with a job after your training.
All these jobs make bank.
Oh yeah.
Like
a lot of them make a lot
welding,
of money.
I know welding's not on here, but
yeah.
Welding, you can make a ton of money right now.
Exactly. So there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with any of these careers. You just need to know, hey, if this is something I like to do, this is where I need to look. A lot of people like to have a hands-on career. This is something they enjoy. You want a career that you're going to enjoy. So if this is something you enjoy, this is something you need to look into. If we have any freshmen and sophomores on here, this is definitely something good to think about. If this is something you like, hey, I might want to apply to the Career Center next year. You know, I might want to look into this. So again, this is a wonderful opportunity out there for you. Next one. We also have the military. The military provides advanced training in many fields, and additional training when you're off duty. A lot of members of the military can get all their colleges paid for and tuition assistance. As far as the military goes, if you want to go to the next slide real quick. These are your main branches of the military. You've got your Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and National Guard. Again, I can't speak to which one's better. If you're someone that wants to join the military, you know, come talk to me, come talk to your counselors. We can get you set up with like a recruiter that's going to know more about the military than we do, or about each branch. Also with the military, you do have to take what's called an ASVAB test that we usually offer at our school. It's a wonderful test, even if you don't want to be in the military, because it gives you ideas of careers you want to go into. But the military is a great option if you're looking, if this is like, for example, I'll give a perfect example. My husband was in the military. He went to high school. You know, he graduated high school. He didn't really know what he wanted to do. He knew he had to do something. Really wasn't ready for college, was still a little immature, wasn't sure what to do. He joined the military for 4 years, you know, got out of the military, and then they paid for his college education. He chose it because he knew he needed to do something. He really didn't want to go to work. He knew at that time he needed the discipline that the military would give him. So that was his choice to join the military, but he did get his college paid for when he got out of the military, and he went to college almost for free at that point. You want to switch to the next slide? Here are some reasons why people might want to join the military. Patriotism and defending your country, jobs in any economy, military also, you know, a lot of times you do get a stipend while you're in the military. You get full medical coverage for you and any of your family members you may have at the time. You do learn different skills and training. You have leadership opportunity, travel opportunity. A lot of times the military travels all over the country, well, everywhere actually, I would say the country, but my husband was in Japan for 2 years in the military. They've got really good retirement benefits. And then also you can join the ROTC program and get a lot of scholarships going into the military. Okay.
I had a student a couple years ago who he tested really high on the ASVAB, and like, you know, and he was, you know, really great, and he got recruited into this really elite program in one of the branches of the military, and basically like he got this deal where he was going to be doing MIT courses for free. And by the time he got done with the program, they said he would be offered like $100,000 like re-sign bonus, and the opportunity to finish off his bachelor's at MIT, like all because of like how well he did on the ASVAB. I'm not saying it's like a very common thing that happens, but like there are so many opportunities that just you don't know until you start talking with a recruiter.
And then the last option we're going to talk about is workforce. There are students that go directly from high school right into the workforce. So a couple of things about going right into the workforce. Usually it's very hard to get a skilled position without the experience, and you're limited in a lot of your opportunities and the promotions and raises without the education and the training behind you. Things that you would consider if you're in the workforce: volunteering to increase your experience. Volunteer at different places to increase the experience that you have to get a better skilled position. A lot of times people will join the workforce to earn money. They'll go join the workforce, they'll work for a year or so to earn money to go to an institution. I've seen people join the workforce and take 1 or 2 classes at Columbus State, so they're making some money and still taking some classes at the same time. By joining the workforce, you usually do gain more life experiences and become more independent. You're more on your own at that point. Once you're in the workforce, you're more on your own rather than having like someone look over, watching what you do, checking on you, things like that. A lot of times too, depending on where you go, a lot of employers will give you some educational benefits. So they will give you some money to go to a post-secondary school, whether that is a trade school or a university. They will give you some money to go into some kind of university you want. So for example, I had a student a couple years ago that wanted to work in construction, got a job working with a construction company, but they paid for him to go to some kind of trade school to learn more about construction. So he graduated high school, got a job right away, and then his place of employment was paying him to learn more about his trade so he could move up in that field. So those are some definite benefits right away about joining the workforce. Also, you start earning money right now. The one negative is, but if you go right from high school to the workforce, you are limited on the opportunities you have. You're putting a cap on how high up you can go. You're putting a cap on a lot of times that salary, things like that, because a lot of places do look for education, experience, things like that.
Yeah, but it's never too late to like, start going back and getting more education as you go along. It's just about like what works for you, and all of this is a big journey, right? Like none of it's like sometimes it feels like you have like you make the one choice and this is what it's going to be forever. And the cool thing is that as you go along, there's always opportunities to make changes either way. So always be looking for those opportunities as you move through whatever it is that your choice is.
So here's just some differences between getting a career versus a job. a career is more of your universities, your trade schools, some kind of education in there is more of your career. That's when you're pursuing a lifelong ambition. You're pursuing that job that you want for 30, 40 years. This is what I want to do in my life. You're personally invested and connected in this. This is what you like to do. I mean, the last one said, like, work is satisfying. You want to be able to leave work saying, not, coming out of work, enjoying your work and liking what you do. You don't want to be always miserable every day going into work. When you're looking more at a job's more like, I just need money. I need a paycheck. There's not a lot of room for advancement. You don't need much training and education. It's, for example, I said, you've got the saying, that's just my job. Jobs are a good starting point. Jobs are not what you want to end with. Jobs are a good starting point. Jobs can be used to propel you to a career. You might work a couple jobs and then decide, for example, even if it's something where I'm working at Kroger stocking shelves, well, that might lead to, hey, Kroger really likes your work ethic, so they're going to pay to send you to school to become a manager. And then once you become a manager, you can work your way up. That's more of a career. So that would be an example of how a job could propel you to a career. And then, go ahead, Ms. Bartingham. And then it says, how do you decide? Again, there's no one best way to decide. I can't sit there and look at someone and say, this is what you should do, because everyone's going to be different. Just like I said, I chose to go to a 4-year school. My husband chose to do the military. I have a sister that chose a 2-year school. Everyone is a little bit different in what they need. What you need to do is really sit down and look at what's going to be best for me and what do I want out of it. And it could change. If you're on here right now and you're a freshman, you might say right now, I'm going to a 4-year school, I'm going to a 4-year school. Then by the time you're a junior or senior, you might be like, oh, I want to do a trade school now because I really want to go into, like, I don't know, the culinary arts, or I want to go into welding. Things can change. So keep an open mind. Don't go in with the idea of, this is what I want and it's set. You have to have an open mind because things are always changing. Your ideas of what you want is always changing. 3 of us counselors have already said what we were thinking about doing originally was not school counseling, and we're all school counselors now. And I can say we all love our jobs. We're all glad that we're doing our jobs. This is what was best for us. But if we would have been stuck on what we wanted to do in high school, we would never have been school counselors. So you have to look at what's good for you and then keep revisiting the idea. And then I think lastly, we have room for questions if anyone had any questions. Ms. Bartingham, was there any questions in the chat?
There's just some people with some reflections. Someone asked for Ms. Uniac's email, which if you need it, it's B.Uniac, which is BUNIACKE @iknowican.org. And that's on the Google Classroom as well. And I mean, I think Ms. Schwab, you did a great job, giving this big overview. It's so hard to boil all this stuff down. And I think that was awesome. You did a great job. And, the things to think about for yourself is what matters to you? What are your non-negotiables? Those are things that you can figure out now that don't really change over time. Your interests and your skills can definitely change over time, but your values, the things that matter most to you, those don't tend to change as much over time. Some of the smaller things I prefer to be, to have a really unpredictable work day, or I prefer to have a predictable work day. Those types of values can change over time. But right now you can be learning about these things using some of the career assessments and Naviance, of course, just reflecting or talking with other people. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself right now is learn about the different opportunities and learn about yourself, and talk to people to help you kind of sort through those thoughts. And those are things as school counselors and Ms. Uniac with I Know I Can, we're all here to help with that. And we're all very passionate about it. Like Ms. Schwab said, we all love our jobs and love getting to work with you guys. So I think I've got the chat opened up. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on this?
And you can always feel free to email any of us, call any of us. We're right now currently working at Whetstone High School. So, the number here is 614-365-6060. You can always feel free to call us, email us, whatever you need. Okay, if there are no questions, then we can end the recording and the chat. And like I said, if you think of anything you guys want, please reach out to us here at the school.
Yeah, and thanks so much for coming. You guys have been great. So we were saying no questions, or got some good things to think about. Taylor, if you want, after I stop the recording, I think your counselor's on here. So if you want to talk with him a little bit more about some of your ideas of what you want to do, you can share those with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If there's anything else, I'm going to stop the recording here though.